Hey guys, Devin here, Lifetime Preparedness. Today I want to talk to you about ammunition. I was on my way home from work and I was thinking, ammunition. What should you have? How much should you have? I don't know if I've ever given my opinion on that before, so I want to share that with you guys. So I have some stuff out here. I'm going to show you in a quick second, and I want to go through with you what we should all have. Now, everyone's personal preference for self-defense is a little different. This is excluding handguns. This is strictly primary weapons and bows as well. I threw bows in here because I'm thinking long gun slash bows kind of big too, so I want to throw those all together. So speaking of long guns, ammunition, what should you have? I think everyone should have a primary weapon, primary rifle or carbine type rifle, something that they can put shots down range pretty fast, at least a decent rate of fire, whether that be an AR-15 style rifle, an AK-47 style rifle, a Mini 14. You could go with a 30-30 if those guns are not legal in your area. So I'm going to go through, some stuff like that with you guys real quick. So let me show you what I got out here. Alright, so everyone should have a carbine style rifle that shoots, either like a 7.62 by 39. I got steel and brass out here, or something more along the lines of a 5.56 or a 2.23 style round. Now, obviously these shoot out of the AK-47 SKS versions. How much should you have if this is your primary type of weapon, whether it's a 5.56 or a 7.62 by 39? I think you should be running about, I would honestly say about 1,000 rounds per rifle. Of that caliber, whatever your primary rifle is, and whether you get steel or brass, that's going to depend on your preference. It's going to depend on what firearm you have, how it's going to function in that firearm. If you have an AK-47 or an SKS, this steel ammo is going to be optimal for that gun. If it was Russian made, if it was Chinese, it'll still work well, but not as well as the Russian made firearms. If it is not, then I would go with the brass. You can go with the brass anyway if you want just a cleaner bullet. But in my experience, they both shoot about the same, and those Russian guns, they eat this ammo up. It works phenomenally. Doesn't give any problems. Now, if you're running an AR-15 style platform, you definitely want to run the 5.56 to 2.23. Now, I recommend getting a firearm that shoots a 5.56. That way, you can also shoot the 2.23. That's just my opinion. And you want to have, I would say, about 1,000 rounds of ammo per carbine for that as well. For everyone in your family. If it's you, your wife, and some kids, obviously, depending on the age of your kids, you're not going to give them, a carbine, depending on their age. So you might want to have two, or let's say your prepping group, there's 5 of you. You're going to want everyone in that group to have a primary weapon, whether that's an AR-15 style rifle, a Mini 14, AK-47, whatever the case is. Now, good old tat is a 30-30 round. In my opinion, it is one of my favorite rounds. The 30-30 is fantastic. It packs a lot bigger punch than the AK-47 7.62 by 39 or the AR-15 platform's 5.56. But it is more readily available now, at least from my noticing. It is more readily available, and it is it's a fantastic round. You can put shots down real quick, downrange, with a lever action, compared to, let's say, a bolt action rifle. So that is the next best thing. I would say it's, if you can't get one of these style rifles that shoot one of these calibers, I would go with a 30-30. And for that, if it is your primary weapon, I'd say 500 to 1,000 rounds for this gun. 500 to 1,000 rounds for this gun, in my opinion. But I would definitely go with, for the, carbine rifles, 1,000 rounds, easy. 1,000 rounds, And then for the 30-30, if it's your main rifle, I'd probably go 1,000 rounds. If it's not your main rifle, I would go about 500 rounds for that, at least 500 to 2,000 for those. Now, if we're getting into a shotgun, because I think another weapon that everyone should have in their arsenal is a 12 gauge shotgun, honestly. So here I got a box of 12 gauge buckshots at the moment. Whether you get target load, buckshot, slugs, it's up to you. I really am a big fan of this military grade buckshot. This stuff shoots phenomenally. I actually prefer it to the slugs, but the slugs are really good. But no, I love this stuff. Really good stuff. It's a 9 pellet. It is absolutely fantastic. So I highly recommend for your shotgun. Now, if you're going to diversify your ammo, I would say get different amounts for different calibers. Like I really like this buckshot. It's hard to find. I got about 125 rounds of it. Now I would recommend for buckshot, if you have a 12 gauge shotgun, for each gun I'd recommend probably at least 50 rounds of buckshot. At least it depends on what you can find, what you can do, get what you can, but I'd say 50 to 100 rounds of buckshot, 100 to 200 rounds of slugs, and you can alternate that depending on your preference. And then obviously you can get target load. That's the cheapest way to go. So I mean, if you can just stock up on some of that, get a 500, 1,000 rounds just to have. So I would say at least 250 to 500 rounds for each 12 gauge shotgun that you have in your arsenal, in your home, for self-defense, for hunting, just for different purposes. It's a great round for all of those things. So I'd say probably about 250 to 500 rounds for that, for each one. Now, if you're going hunting rounds, I just pulled out 2 rounds here. I pulled out the 243, and over here I got the let me pop this open here. I got the 7mm Magnum. Love this round. It's a great round. I highly encourage you guys to get one of those if you can. But with the the long rifles used for long range support, or even just hunting purposes, you're gonna want after an SHTF event, you're gonna want a long range gun. So I would definitely say go with a 243 at the smallest, if not even bigger. But I'd say 243 at the smallest. Personally, I'd recommend a 308, 30-06, 7mm Magnum, 300 Win Mag, long distance rifles. Make sure you can hit targets at that range. At the range you might have to shoot. So that's a great round. Those are great rounds, and for each of those guns, I would recommend to run about 100 rounds. You're not going to be needing them as much. So I feel like in my opinion, a safe number for your long rifles is about 100 rounds per rifle. That's just my opinion. And then over here we have the 22 long rifle. It is fairly cheap. It was anyway. I bought this 500 round box of Blazer for I think it was like $16 at Dick's a while back. They don't have it much anymore. When they do, it's expensive. But Dick's had this Blazer ammo, and 22 is one of those funny ones. People say it's one of those best rounds for an SHTF event. I wouldn't want to give my life for a 22 not working against an enemy. I'd rather, if I'm trying to save my life, I don't want a 22. I'm trying to save one of my family members' lives, I don't want a 22. It's just not one of those guns that I'm going to trust a life with one of those calibers. But it does hold a good place. You can use it for target practice. You can use it for small game hunting, which you might need to do after a grid down event, or an SHTF event, whatever it is. You might need to do a lot of small game hunting. It's good for target practice. It's a good weapon for smaller children to learn on. It's just a great round, but it is not what you want to risk. Use to survive. You really don't want to rely on a 22 caliber round. So with those, I mean, when you find them, they're affordable enough. I'd say a couple thousand rounds. Now per rifle, get 500 rounds. That's way more than enough per rifle. I think we have 30, 40, 50,000, maybe more. I don't know. Who knows? Can't keep track. But when you have those, that's all you're going to use them for. Now, there's some other things when it comes to bows. You want to have your arrows. These are big ones for a big bow. You want to make sure you have your arrows, and because you can lose them, you can break them. It's always good you got to have extras. I'd say a couple dozen, 2 dozen. I think that's a reasonable number. 2 dozen arrows put back. I don't see you needing more. And it's one of those things, not a lot of people, compared to firearms, use them. So it's just one of those things. I think a couple dozen would work. Now, you also need to keep in mind, you need to have tips for them. So, these are pretty good. Got these at Walmart, actually. But I would say you want to have tips for them. You definitely want to have tips for them. And you want to... Honestly, these, I'd say a couple dozen too. You want a couple dozen. You at least want one for each, because these things can break. They can be lost. You definitely want at least, I'd say, match them with your arrows. And then same goes with the crossbow, guys. Same goes with the crossbow. You want your tips, and you want your bolts. Same thing. You want your tips, you want your bolts for a crossbow. And I'd say about the same, about a couple dozen for each. For both, I would say the exact same thing. Got a new local whiskey. Pretty good. Pretty good. Not my favorite, but it's got good flavor. Good flavor. But yeah, guys. So just to run it back real quick, for arrows and bolts, I'd say about a couple dozen each. Same with tips. I'd say about a couple dozen each for each one. Carbine ammo, I'd say about 1,000 rounds per carbine or your main rifle, and that applies to if your rifle's like a 30-30 as well. Now, if it's a shotgun, I would say about 500 rounds. I'm going to change it from 250 to 500 to straight 500 if that's your primary weapon, if not 1,000. But if it's not your primary weapon, you just have shotguns, I would say about 250 to 500 rounds for that. And then for your long rifles, long-range weapons for hunting or self-defense, security, whatever you're using them for, I'd say about 100 rounds, give or take 100 to 250. That's all preference there, guys. That's all preference. This is all per gun. And then 22 is, I'd say about 500 per gun, because it is readily available in some areas. And when you do find it, it's mostly sold in bulk. If not, it's sold in like 100-round packs for like $10 to $20 a pack, depending on where you go. So it's quite affordable, at least when there's not a severe ammo shortage that's going on. Be mindful when you go shopping. If you see it, get it while you can. Even if I'll be honest, if you guys got to put it on a credit card, I would recommend getting it and putting it out, because there is an ammo shortage, and you got to get what you got to get. Even if it's not your own caliber, you can trade that caliber with a friend, a family member. If someone has a different caliber that you need, and they might have that one, you could trade with them. You can use it for after an event for trade, but don't put yourself in a hole where you can't get out of without for getting something you don't have a weapon for. But yeah, those are what I think for calibers, what I think you should have, what kind of guns, what kind of calibers you should have. Yeah, guys. If you want to show support for the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Share with your friends and family. That way we can get the message of preparedness out there. Obviously, that's the most important thing, getting people prepared. So go ahead and share my videos, share other people's videos, other preppers. Go ahead and do that. That way we can get the message of preparedness out there. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the bell. YouTube may or may not notify you when my videos go up. If they do, it could be now, next week. Who the hell knows? So go ahead and do that. Yeah, guys, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.